I think that means, Jess, that we're just jumping in.
We're in.
You're live.
Hi, everyone. We might give everyone a couple of minutes to get in. Go grab a glass of wine if you haven't got one yet. Knock off and shut down your Slack or your team meets, whichever you're using, and get ready for an awesome conversation with our panelists tonight.
I didn't bring my wine and cheese, full confession.
Oh, it's not a girl boss night without your wine and cheese. That's okay. I think our attendees can make up for it. We'll just give everyone a couple more minutes and then we'll kick off.
Jess, you've inspired me. After saying go get a glass of wine, I went and got a beer.
Oh, perfect.
Oh.
Nice. Yeah, wine is not the only drink you're allowed to have. Beer is more than welcome.
I didn't know if it was inappropriate to drink while I'm on the panel, but I thought, you know what? It's all a big safe community, so let's do it.
Definitely. If we were face to face, we'd be encouraging it for sure. even
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I'm not getting a visual of you guys through the system, so I just need to have a quick check to see what's going on. Give me a second.
Cool. We're just having the awkward convo for no reason.
Popular convo. It's all right. What time in the Philippines, Kim?
It's 4 p.m. now.
Oh.
Hi, everyone. If anyone is listening from the Philippines.
Nice. Looks like there's 24 people in. Just giving a quick update.
Awesome.
Thanks. Hi, 24 people.
I can see 49 people in.
Yeah, 55. Looks like everyone's coming in now.
Luckily, they missed the initial conversation, guys.
Where we were just allowing everyone a few minutes to come in. Mitch got a beer. Hope everyone's got their wine. We're ready to go.
The Zoom connect to Event Air, so they're on a different platform. Is that right?
Yeah, it all connects.
Yeah, everyone's in now. So we might kick off and people can join as they progress. So I just wanted to join and welcome everyone to tonight, Girls in Tech Australia's third virtual Girl Boss Night, which has been a lot of fun transforming what we do physically into the virtual world. And I'm Jess and I'm the MD for Girls in Tech in Australia, and I'm super excited about tonight's topic. It's one that's very close to my heart and particularly important for the times that we're living in to have together. And it's great to have these fantastic speakers with us tonight to have that conversation. The pandemic is impacting us in so many different ways, and with the help of technology, and many organisations are really doing wonderful and innovative things to support our mental health, which I'm sure many different ideas and conversations are going to be brought up tonight. I'm living and breathing this at the moment in my day job outside of Girls in Tech, and we recently provided our company with a whole day off for wellbeing and many other programs like Upwell, which is the company that Kim's from, Uprise, sorry, and many other programs which are so important to give back to team members in this time. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our moderator, Teresa Truda, who's on the board for Girls in Tech. Hello. Teresa was an award-winning CEO and founder of an investor-backed startup, so awesome person to know in the startup world. Teresa has spent many years expanding Chosen into China. Then after exiting her former startup, moved back to Melbourne, where she is well known for her knowledge in tech, building brands online, and is active in the startup space as a mentor and advisor. Teresa also lectures leading universities in entrepreneurship, strategy and marketing, and she's on the board for Girls in Tech. Welcome, Teresa.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks for having me moderate this. Hi, everybody. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging and paying my respects to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathered today. I would like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. So welcome everyone to our third Girls in Tech virtual boss night. I am Teresa Truda and I'm very fortunate to be a board member of the Girls in Tech Australia community. We're a non-for-profit organisation run by a bunch of really enthusiastic and passionate individuals. We're all committed to the empowerment, networking and education of women in the technology sector. So I'd like to thank you all for joining tonight's really timely and relevant conversation. Given the pandemic is affecting us all in very different ways, it's fitting that we get together and we chat about how we can make our mental health a priority. Now, of course, in true Girl Boss Night style, we are keeping up our tradition of cheese and wine spreads. And we're hoping that many of you are currently snacking on some delicious cheese and wine. Full confession, I only have water in my mug at the moment. But if you are snacking on some cheese and wine, please do take a snap and post it to social with the hashtag Girl Boss Night for your chance to win a prize. Before we really get into tonight, I'd like to make a really very special shout out to Carolina DePetta for all your hard work in leading this event. You have some serious super duper organisation skills, along with Vanessa Curtis, Susan He, Jamuna Raj, Karen Katz and our remaining board members who have all made sure that tonight can run as smoothly as possible. So thanks so much for an awesome team effort. We also have a massive thank you to give to Events Air for providing the platform that we're all on. We've partnered with Events Air for Girls in Tech, for the Girls in Tech conference and for previous Girl Boss Nights. And it's got some really great features, which you'll all get to know by the end of tonight, particularly when it comes to the speed dating networking that we do. Alrighty, so on to how tonight's going to work. It's pretty simple, guys. We have three awesome panelists who you can see now, and we'll be hearing from them firstly. I'll basically ask them some questions and they'll give some responses, and we'll have a nice open chat. Then the Zoom will be open for your questions to be answered. So please, throughout the session, while we're having a conversation, pop your questions into the chat and we'll address your questions right at the end of the panel. Once we've done that, this will be followed by a 10-minute group meditation hosted by the brilliant Mitch Wallis. Thank you, Mitch. And then once we've had a nice meditation, we will then finish the Girl Boss Night with an opportunity for you guys to network through speed dating with your fellow attendees. So you get to know some randoms virtually over Zoom, which is great. Okay, so why are we all here? Given what we're all going through with this pandemic, mental health really is becoming more of a priority for all of us. Whether you're experiencing mental health challenges yourself, or you may actually know someone that is, we all just really need to look out for one another and be aware of techniques, tangible tools that we can all use in times of crisis to help support our mental health. And whether it be feelings of isolation, exhaustion, work-related challenges, like there's so much that everybody is experiencing right now. And this pandemic really has changed our behaviours as a society and shifted our mindset overall. So we're here tonight, as in some shape or form, we actually all really crave and want a level of support and some ideas of how to better cope. We've invited our expert panelists to join us, who you'll get to know shortly, as we talk through the current and future situation of what we're looking at. So we really do appreciate your support as these important conversations, as we have these important conversations. And now I'm going to actually open up the panel and introduce you guys to the panelists. So Thanks everybody for joining us. To kick this off, I'd like to ask each panelist to tell us a little bit about yourselves. Tell us why you're passionate about mental health, and if you can share one quirk about yourself so we can get to know you a little bit, that'd be great. So Michelle, I might start with you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, Michelle, you're on, your audio's gone.
Ooh, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, there we go. Great.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. Great topic, really important. I'm a psychologist in private practice in Melbourne, dealing with mental health issues every day. And I've never been busier than at the moment with the pandemic, especially in Melbourne. I'm passionate about mental health because it's just so important. Healthy body and healthy mind. And the mind and the body are so intricately linked that if our mind isn't functioning optimally, it affects our body and all sorts of symptoms and can lead to all sorts of nasty things. So holistic view, healthy body, healthy mind. Little quirk about myself, and I thought I'd try and, I'm not a tech person, I confess, but I thought I'll try and make it a bit tech related. I have a digital photo album that's printed of my dog's first year of life.
Brilliant. I love that. Everyone is welcome. You don't have to be tech to be here, Michelle. No, that's awesome. So when you say a digital photo album, just so we're clear, you've printed out
Yes.
the photos that you've taken digitally of your
So I made a digital book.
Right.
Yeah, I made the digital album and then got it printed. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Love it. How old's your dog?
2 dogs.
Oh, you got 2?
Yeah. So it's full of photos of cute poses of them together. They're 7.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Michelle, and welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you. Mitch, do you want to go up next?
Sure. Thank you, Teresa. And it's really nice to be here to see everyone virtually. So I had and still do a very fortunate and privileged outside life. I did a Bachelor of Commerce at Sydney Uni coming out of high school. I lucked my way into an internship at Microsoft as the youngest intern in the company, and then ended up getting a grad role there, working 5 years in Australia, and then moved over to the States in a global product manager role, running part of the Surface business. And it was a crazy life. As you can imagine, your mid-20s, managing a global P&L, go-to-market, supply chain, working with engineering, sitting 5 doors down from Panos. I'm sure that there's some massive fangirls on this call of some of the tech that's coming out of that, and maybe some haters too. But what no one saw in the parallel work stream, excuse me, to me living this amazing life was the incredible amount of suffering I was going through from a very young age. At 7 years old, I first knew that I was different when I was doing very strange behaviors, and the doctor diagnosed me with obsessive compulsive disorder. And that turned into panic disorder, major depression, depersonalization, and suicidal ideation late into my teenage years and my younger adult life. How we got here is a much longer journey, but cut a long story short, my life changed forever in one of my darkest moments when I asked for help and said, please, 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 I'll devote the rest of my life to this space if I can just see a way out. And I miraculously stumbled across a YouTube video of a guy telling his story. And it was the first time in my life that I'd felt understood. And I think that our greatest need as humans is just to feel connected and that someone actually gets it. And from there, I wanted to be that guy for one other person. So I made a video of my story, shattering the illusion of this perfect life. And within a week, that video reached over 1 million people and started a global movement now called Heart on My Sleeve. Nowadays, I'm very fortunate to be working in this space. I run 5 mental health organizations. I also have a master's degree in clinical psychology. So I don't think you'll find someone more passionate about this area than me. And I'm very grateful to be here.
Thanks, Mitch. It's an epic story and journey, and we'll hear more about it later as we kind of, unpack it all. But really already appreciate your transparency and openness around it all. So thanks. It's awesome to have you. And Kim?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Kim, and thank you very much, Girls in Tech, for inviting me to be here. I am very fortunate and privileged to be one of your panelists, because topic about mental health is really my personal advocacy. So yeah, something about me, I think I became passionate about mental health 3 years ago, when I personally experienced mental health issues. So during that tough time, I actually didn't know what to do. I don't think I'm at my 100% best. And the last solution that I could think of is to seek a professional help. Nobody knows it, like even my family don't know about it, and I just keep it to myself. And then yeah, during that time, I realized that, when I was having session with my therapist, I realized that whatever I'm going through is actually valid, and it's okay not to be okay, and it's actually okay to seek help. And from then on, I've made vow to myself that it will be my personal advocacy to educate people around me about mental health, about seeking professional help if needed, and just plainly encouraging everyone, and yeah, just encouraging everyone that, hey, it's okay not to be okay. So yeah, little quirk about myself. I don't know if this is a quirk, but I love basketball so much. Like, I can talk about it all day long. So NBA is back. Sorry about it, but yeah, NBA is back, and I can. Yeah, I'm so happy that it's back, and it's like my silver lining during this pandemic. So yeah, that's me.
Nice, Kim. What team do you go for?
Well, Boston Celtics.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
I was once in a lift with what's his name? Stephen Curry from
Oh, Golden State.
yeah, Golden State, that's it. But I had no idea because I'm not into NBA. And so my co-founder at the time was just like massive fan, and just freaked out. And I was like, who is this person? I had no idea. But no, that's awesome. It's a good thing to have. And apparently there's a lot of basketball card trading that's going on at the moment in COVID. So
It is.
yeah, cool. Thanks so much, Kim, for sharing, and thanks everyone. Welcome. So I'm going to open up with a pretty big question that I guess we could speak all night about, but let's try not to, because we've got a few to get through. But in your view, I guess, how has the pandemic shaped society's behaviours? So how we're working, how we live, and how we interact. Michelle, if you can start off. Again, Michelle, I think you've got a sound issue. Maybe just keep yourself off mute.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry. Big question. Huge question. This pandemic has just affected us in so many ways. Life's just not normal at the moment for anyone, I don't think, and it's a global thing. And many people who have never thought about their mental health before suddenly find that they're having difficulty coping. And for people who have struggled with mental health, there's often an exacerbation of issues. For so many people, there's a fear of getting sick, either themselves or relatives, especially a fear of elderly relatives getting sick. Work from home, completely new territory. Everything's changed there. Physical and mental exhaustion, financial stress, financial insecurity, job insecurity, job loss, changes in all of these areas. Also a lot of fear and anxiety about what will happen afterwards. So not just during the pandemic, but what might happen afterwards with a job, with society generally. There's a loss of control that people are finding, lack of purpose or structure to the day. For a lot of people, either living alone, isolation, or even living with people who they might not like or might not get on with, feeling trapped in dangerous or toxic relationships, There's just so much going on. And with all of that, we're suddenly hearing new terms on a daily basis that we haven't heard before, like social distancing, quarantine, self-isolation, curfew, get tested, mandatory mask wearing, lockdown fatigue. And with lockdown fatigue, I don't know if people have heard of that term, but it's quite big at the moment, and just refers to, just the general state of exhaustion caused by all the effects of this pandemic that affects so many aspects of our life. We can't do what we want, feel cooped up, cut off from normal social interactions, feeling uncertain and anxious about the future. In some areas, there seems to be no end in sight. Hearing and seeing people not doing the right thing brings a lot of anxiety. We're often bombarded by information, inconsistent messages by politicians, and frustrations with directives. I haven't mentioned homeschooling children. For those who are homeschooling children, particularly young children, very, very difficult, very stressful. So, this pandemic is just affecting us in so many ways. And as well as all of that, many people don't have access to their usual outlets, like gyms or going to cafes or meeting up with people. So, yeah, I could keep talking. Do you want me to keep going or?
Well, no, I think you've actually touched on something that kind of summarises it all, because everybody's got their own stuff going on, and at the end of it, it is lockdown fatigue. Like, as in, if you had to summarise the bigger kind of picture, everyone's tired, and even you just actually talking about that openly then makes me personally feel normal. I go, oh, yeah, do you know what? Other people have lockdown fatigue. It is a thing. And I think that it's just really important for us to acknowledge and talk about these things, so we all do recognise that even though some of us may still be in jobs or may, still have a pretty good privileged life, it's still a really strange circumstance that we're in, right? And we're all a bit tired, and it's great that, yeah, you've normalised it, I think, for everyone, which is awesome.
I might just add to that also, especially during the first lockdown, I would come across people that were coping okay, and then they felt anxious that there was something wrong with them because they were okay with it all, whereas general society wasn't coping. So
yeah,
really, however people are feeling is okay. It's just things are just not normal at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point that you've made. It is okay, and everyone's got different they're on the scale, on the spectrum in a different way, right?
Yeah.
And thanks, Michelle. And Kim, from a work perspective, I guess, how would you say that COVID's obviously shaped society's behaviours?
Yeah, I think this pandemic, for me, I think this is what the working from home setup right now, for me, I believe this is like the new industrial revolution, if I could say that. Like, well, expert industry foresee that this work from home setup will happen 10 years from now. But when the pandemic happened, it happened in a snap. The decade of change happened overnight, and nobody was prepared for that, to be all honest. And I can see all companies were like sort of panicking. How can we make sure everyone is safe? First, how can we make sure that we are operating well when it comes to the business and stuff like that? And it was really hard. Yeah, personally, in terms of, working, it's really hard to switch off from starting working and end of work. You just go and on because you have nothing to do. You're in a lockdown and there's a lot of work to do, and you feel like, okay, I have nothing to do, and just do my work. And it's quite really hard, to be all honest, in terms of that one. So yeah, in terms of interaction, people now are finding a hard time connecting with people because they're not used to, virtual conference or maybe phone call, because they prefer face-to-face interaction, and that's something that they have to adjust. So yeah, basically this pandemic really changed the way we work, the way we interact, the way we relate to other people, and the way we connect and communicate. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you know, you're spot on with it. Really has shifted the way in terms of there aren't any boundaries anymore. There's no sort of personal life and work life. And I think we're all really feeling that, yeah, every day right now. Hey, so Mitch, I've got one specifically here for you around mental health and the perception. And the perception around mental health. So it's obviously shifted in society throughout the years. And why do you think that this is, and what's driven the shift?
I don't think anyone knows what mental health really is, or what it really means, what this outcome or the destination that everyone's driving toward is. It's got to have a rebrand, or at very least, it's got to have some education around it. So to understand what it is, I think it's important to understand what it's not. So in my mind, mental health is not three things. So first of all, it's not mental illness. Mental illness is a point on the spectrum of mental health. Everyone should want mental health. Everyone has it. It's homeostasis. It can erode from time to time, whether it's a bad day, a bad week, a relationship breakdown, a traumatic event. But we have to reorientate mental health not to be a synonym with illness. The second thing that it's not is the complete absence of problems. I think a lot of people feel like their life needs to be perfect, or the situation needs to be how it's supposed to be in order to be happy, but that's just not true. We could get into like a mathematical equation as to why, but essentially life isn't a pure equation of the things that happen equals the impact on emotion. If that were true, the first world would be happier than the third world, and that's not the case. Two people going through the same 4 traffic lights. One person on the left goes, oh, 3 red lights in a row. That'd be right. This always happens to me. Car on the right goes, oh, my first green light. How good's that? Exactly the same situation, totally different outcome, right? So life is way more about the meaning that you make from it as opposed to what happens in it. And the third thing that mental health isn't is the absence of negative emotions. So we all are anxious. We're all depressed. We're all manic from time to time. In the DSM, the book that you use to diagnose people as crazy and not crazy, the only difference is, first of all, nothing. We're all on the spectrum. But if you really had to force it, it'd be 2 variables, intensity and duration. So it's how much and for how long of a natural emotion is this person experiencing? And then the second variable is 2 variables. And then the third aspect is how far above our point of coping are we? It doesn't matter where anyone else is. We just need to work out, are we able to cope with the emotional experience that we have? You know, feeling anxious 5 out of 10 for 2 weeks, probably doable. Feeling anxious 10 out of 10 for 2 months, not so doable. So to me, what mental health is the absence of excessive debilitating emotions, not removing any type of bad emotion from your body, as a way of coping well with life's problems, as opposed to having the perfect life, and living a life of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment, i.e. not being happy all the time. That's not the outcome. So I think there's a lot of first timers to this whole space of mental health, and they're wondering, like, is there something wrong with me? And I think the question should be, this is the most human I've ever felt, because I've seen more to this reality than I have before. It's not, do not wait. I always tell people, don't wait for the pandemic to be over. When this happens, I'll be X. Why would you put your success factor in the most non-controllable part of that equation? So I think it's around how we get good at coping now and looking at the things that drive that return on investment.
Yeah, that's great, Mitch. And I mean, I've even got questions around, like, you started it with the way that we speak about mental health, and the definition of mental health has to change, right? And it has to shift. And do you actually think that, who's responsible for that? You know, is it advocates that work in the mental health space, or is it really society? Do we all need to shift our way in which we're thinking and approaching the term mental health?
The research shows that campaigns nowadays don't do anything. As in, you can say it ain't weak to speak all you want. You can wear bright colored t-shirts, you can put up flyers around your office. It doesn't do anything. Yeah. Awareness is saturated. We now, you know, anyone who's studied business, you need to move down the funnel into perception. And that only comes when you share stories of lived experience. So instead of saying it's okay to talk, just do that thing. go talk, lead by example, and then people will believe it, you know? So we need more stories. We need more people wearing their hearts on their sleeve. We need more people asking, are you okay? As opposed to just posting yellow tiles on Instagram saying it's a great campaign. So we like time that it's too late. You know, we can't sit here talking about it anymore. We just have to lead by example in a safe way, but with action.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. Thanks, Mitch. Just a reminder, I mean, everyone's responses makes me want to ask so many more questions, but I don't want to go too off track. But if you guys do have questions, please just pop them into the Q&A chat and we will get to them a little bit later. Just remember that is there for you guys as well. Thanks, Mitch, for that. So I guess in turn, with this shift in the stigma of mental health, we've seen some companies now more than ever start to actually prioritise mental health and wellbeing. Kim, can you share how workplaces are managing mental health for the better and how they're empowering employees to feel safe to speak about mental health?
Yeah, sure. To be honest, when the pandemic happened, in terms of, well, Uprise, as you know, is an employee assistance program. And when the pandemic happened, our customers really doubled up. At first, I thought, oh, that's good business. At the other side of my head, I feel bad because, you know, maybe a lot of people need help, which is in a way good or bad. But anyways, in terms of the companies, companies are now more proactive in providing mental health support for their employees. As we know, in the big tech companies in Silicon Valleys and stuff like that, they now have well-being days. They now have mental health leave that we don't have before. I think mental health leave before is just called sick leave, and we just do that because we're physically sick or maybe not 100% okay. But now companies and organization is more open in acknowledging that employees need mental health break, most especially during these trying times. And just like what Mitch says, with the organization, leaders are taking, proactive and exerting much effort and educating their employees about well-being and mental health. They walk the talk now. They share their experience. They are now more vulnerable in sharing that I'm not okay, I'm not 100% today, and I'll be taking mental health leave. And then they are encouraging employees in doing that. And right now, I guess conversation is more fruitful because it's not all about work. When they have one-on-one conversation or catch up, they check, how are you? How are you doing? How are you at home and things like that? Because right now, low performance is not equals to not being good at work. Mm-hmm. Could be like low performance is equals to I'm having issues at home. I'm having personal issues that I can't even understand. And with these employees, then they need extra support. And it's really a good thing that companies are taking or doing best effort to provide extra support for their employees, such as providing well-being activities like an off day wherein they don't have to do any work. They will just catch up with their team. They are preparing well-being kits wherein they included mindfulness coloring book and things like that. And introducing employee assistance for their staff members. So that's the kind of change that we have now in the industry. So.
Yeah, that's great, Kim. And I think we're seeing actually, and this is sort of to Mitch's point before about the shift, we are seeing people now start to actually take their mental health day, even if they're not feeling bad necessarily, they're going, well, do you know what? We're in a bit of a pandemic and why not have a day? I would normally take a day anyway, like an annual leave day. So why not take my mental health day? So we are seeing companies really sort of shift and be more open to that. And I mean, I'm a contractor, so I get exposed to quite a few different companies and how they operate. But, a lot of them are really going out of their way to have well-being days, like you've just said, Kim, and organise activities that are fun, that aren't work-related. And that's really important for mental health, right? And so obviously we all love to support businesses at Girls in Tech, and we'd love to know how your organisations, your companies support mental health. Kim, do you want to start off?
Yeah, sure. I think my boss is here. I think he attended this event.
Careful
So,
what you say.
yeah. So Jay, if you're there, hi. Anyways, in our organization, Uprise, I'm very fortunate that my boss is a clinical psychologist himself. So he makes sure that he walks the talk. When we say that leaders should model, mental health advocacy, so he does that. In our daily operation, we have this daily check-ins. We're in Monday, we just talk about work, and for the rest of the days or for the rest of the week, we just have like daily catch up in terms of like getting to know each other. We do have game day, wherein we just play Pictionary, we just play escape room and things like that. We do have mindfulness day as well, wherein as a group we meditate or we watch modules from Uprise, and yeah, things like that, discussing about our mental health and well-being. So also, most importantly, encouraging mental health break, because during this trying time, it's really chaotic. It can get really, really busy, and we are pretty rubbish in checking ourselves if we are okay. And it's a good thing that your colleagues will check on you and encourage you. Maybe you need a time off. You need a day off, and get 100% and get back to the game again. So yeah, that's what we are doing right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim. And Mitch, how about you?
I could take up a bit too much time on this one, so I'm going to cut it down.
I'll make sure I cut you off.
Yeah, you're like,
we spoke about this.
Yeah, we spoke about this earlier. I have 5 companies, and all of them work in the corporate space. So hard on my sleeve, we do stigma campaigns around storytelling in the workplace. So we help companies create storytelling books. We host pledge days, which is like the I'm not okay. I pledge to speak up when I'm not okay, to create accountability for the help seeker themselves, and a whole bunch of stuff there. Second one we have is a company called Real Mates, where we go in and we do conversation and mental health literacy training, accreditation, and groups. So particularly leaders, we run quite intensive workshops to build emotional intelligence and be able to get them to be fully confident to have mental health conversations at work. And we also embed peer support networks within companies like KPMG, Microsoft, American Express, Baker McKenzie, like got some amazing partners there. And we help employees become empowered to be able to triage and hold space for other employees, because you're twice as likely to reach out to a peer before you are HR or management. The third business I have is a speaking business. So I do lots of talks at corporates. I had 8 last week for Are You OK Day. And at the moment, it's similar to what Michelle said. I've never been busier, because companies are desperately trying to take care of their people, because people is the #1 asset. And I think part of that is normalizing the experience through common ground. I have a consulting company where I work with the likes of RB, for example, who are in like Finish detergent. They're a huge hygiene company, and we go in and instead of tactically just looking at things that the company can do, we help build like a 3-year vision as to like, how do we do a pulse survey, an insights check, a hotspots analysis to say, here's what's going well, here's what's not going so well. And you can build a framework around that for a dedicated workplace strategy. And I'm also very excited, small plug, for a company I'm launching in hopefully a month. It's called Calm Water. It's basically hydrolyte for anxiety. So it's a supplement you add to drinking water that reduces stress and promotes relaxation. So yeah, I live and breathe the corporate mental health stuff. With some like meeting with HR directors on a daily basis. Everyone's desperate to do more. But I will say, my last point, and this kind of feeds on from what Kim was saying in the previous point, if you were to ask me, what is a mentally healthy workplace in a few words, or the #1 goal that any workplace can head towards, I would say, don't make someone worse. I think every other thing falls out of that. You don't need to fix your employee's mental health issue. In fact, I would say it's a boundaries breach if you try and take on responsibility for things that's not yours to own. if all you did was not add to their stress by not checking in, by not analyzing job demand, job design, cultural issues, concerns, not having escalation points, then you've got risk. But otherwise, it's a true partnership with your staff member.
Yeah, that's a great point to finish on. I have a couple of comments. Firstly, Mitch, do you ever sleep with 5 business?
Yeah, I had a nap today. It was great.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
20-minute nap. Awesome.
Yeah.
No, but the other point that I wanted to make was that I think it's a really important thing that you've said there around not needing to solve your employees' problems, right? Or not needing to solve, actually, it's sort of a broader thing. You don't need to solve anyone's problems. It's about providing the right space for your employees, for your friends to be able to sort of open up and not to feel that need to solve. And that's something that I personally learned. Everyone used to call me Mother Teresa because I used to go around trying to solve everyone's issues, you know, and you realize after a while and with work that you can't solve people's problems, but you can provide safe spaces for them to open up or not make it worse, like you said, particularly in an employer situation.
I will shut up after this, but this is like the most important point possible for supporting someone. So I want to make sure that there's no confusion here. The reason why you don't fix someone's issue, is A, it's annoying, but B, you don't need the problem to change in order to feel better. And that's this macro concept. The Buddhists have been talking about it for so long, you know, shifting your relationship to an existing thing. You don't need to change the size of it, and you can change its impact purely by connecting over it. A problem shared is a problem halved, right? And it reduces mass without reducing size, and that is phenomenal.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mitch. So we'd really love to talk now about your tech resources, and Michelle, your non-tech resources as well, that make your own personal bookmarks or shortlist. So, you know, what's a tech platform or a non-tech platform, whether it's an app, a site, a chatbot, a book, that you feel contributes to your own personal well-being in a positive light, and can you tell us why it impacts you? Michelle, do you want to start off?
Yeah, I've unmuted myself.
Oh, again, we just have to wait a sec because you've been on mute. Do you want to try again talking?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I unmuted myself straight away this time. Okay, so in terms of tech, meditation apps I like, and there's so many. There's some fantastic ones. Smiling Mind is huge, and they've also, I think the government contracted with them recently to add an extra COVID-19 aspect to it. But Smiling Mind is great for all ages. Insight Timer has so many meditations. Calm app, so many meditation apps. I'm all for them. And I think one thing I might just add in terms of non-tech strategies, building on what Mitch said, a situation in itself isn't necessarily going to cause us anxiety or depression or struggle. It's our perception of the situation. So, for example, with the current situation, there's so much anxiety about the uncertainty. When is it going to end? How is it going to end? And if we take a different view and rather than that, look at the fact that everything passes. And actually also building on Mitch's Buddhist philosophy, impermanence. Nothing is permanent, everything passes, and this too will pass. So looking at things from a different angle, huge strategy. And I'll talk a bit more about that a bit later.
Yeah, it'd be great to have you talk a little bit more about that. That's something that's personally resonated with me through those meditation apps, actually. Through Headspace, I learnt about, you know, the clouds passing and the blue sky being underneath. And it really is true that everything is temporary. And I think actually it's important, Michelle, if you can, and you can do this later as well, but sort of elaborate on how you actually get there. Because it's, you know, it's one thing sort of saying, you know, let's go and listen to a meditation on calm, but, you know, how do you kind of truly get there where you feel like everything is temporary and everything does pass? I don't know whether you want to answer that now or...
It's being aware of your thinking. So, you know, some people are more naturally glass half empty people, some are more naturally glass half full. But in any given situation, we can ask ourselves, what's another way to think about that? So gratitude is a huge thing in terms of mental health. Not so much aiming to be happy, but if we look at an attitude of gratitude and looking at things that we do have in our life rather than things that we don't have, that makes a huge difference. I always say there's a flip side to every coin. So everybody's got some issues that they're struggling with, but there's also so much good in our lives. And say with this pandemic, we can focus on the fact that we're stuck at home, I'd say especially in Victoria or anywhere under lockdown. We can't go very far. There's so many things that we can't do, etc. Or we can also focus on the fact that, wow, I'm actually so lucky with where I live. If I have to be stuck anywhere, I'm so lucky with where I live, either the place I live or hopefully with who I live with, and looking at the positives there, looking at the fact that if I'm struggling with working from home, well, I have a job. So lucky to have a job. So it's really about what is another way I can look at this and what's the flip side.
Absolutely. Thanks, Michelle. That's great. Mitch, what's personally on your short list, your bookmarks?
So I'm actually writing a book on this at the moment, the 7 tools to coping, and they all start with C because I have OCD, but I think that I'll choose the top 3. Connection, cognition, and chemistry. So conversation is my biggest coping tool 24/7, because conversation is the currency of connection. It's how we build equity in our relationships. And as I said before, feeling understood and someone just hearing you, ingesting you, not trying to fix you, possibly trying to shift your mindset, but not change the problem. And my support network, I mean, I've spent the last, 30 years, but at least the last 5 really cementing in the people around me that are like, as we say in the millennial generation, ride or die homies. And they can just really hold me in those moments where I can't even hold myself. The second thing would be chemistry. So looking after my big 3, sleep, diet, and exercise, and making sure that no matter how good my mind is, if my body's not in a good place, it's like a car having a hole in the engine. You could get Michael Schumacher into the car, that thing's not getting around the corner. So you need to take care of the machine. And the third thing would be cognition. And to build onto Michelle's point, I would love to talk with Michelle about this a lot, and Kim as well, which is, in my books, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, #1 therapy treatment used across the board in the world. I reckon you can boil it down to one thing, which is don't think in black and white. Catastrophizing, mind reading, to me, they are all the brain's lust for control, wanting to see the world in one way or another, because the brain doesn't care if you're happy. It cares if it's safe, and it will trump any other system to feel safe, and safety is a derivative of control. So that's a long way of saying, if we can shift out of black and white, our lives will become immeasurably better. You know, and you said before, how do you believe that things are temporary? Well, don't think in black and white. Instead of saying, oh, my boss hates me, he's never nice to me. Is that actually true? He's probably mean a lot of the time, but instead of 100% or 0%, maybe we can get on the spectrum of 82% he's not nice, 18% he is. How do we change that mix? Instead of thinking, when is this going to pass? Look in evidence in times in your life where things have passed and remember those times. So when you don't think things pass, go back to your evidence set and be like, look at these 1,400 things that have passed.
Absolutely. How about you, Kim?
All right. I don't want to be biased, but I've been personally using our app, Uprise app, at work, because yeah, basically within that app, I can do some upskilling in terms of how to handle stress, how to practice mindfulness and things like that. But outside that, I also use worry time. So if you can search for that, because I'm a toxic worrier and I have to unlearn that, or I have to get over that. And when I had a chance to talk to a therapist, she recommended me this app. Maybe you could try doing worry app. So yeah, it is. I think it is for free. And during that, with that app, you just have to like type all the worries that you have in a day, and you have to set the time in a day where you can just worry, like let's say for 15 minutes, and after that, don't worry at all. Do it the next day. And it actually really helped. It helped my anxiety. It helped being a toxic worrier all the time. Because if you worry a lot of time, you can really can't focus and work, right? Other than that, of course, I'm using Calm. So I use that for my meditation. And I'm a big fan of journaling. I love good old journaling, right? The moment I wake up, I just unload everything in my journal. Before I sleep, I just unload everything in my journal. And it feels nice because it's just write and write. And it's in your notebook. It's not in the internet or whatsoever. So yeah, it's just you and your notebook writing your feelings out. So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, some great examples there from all of you around, you know, tech and how that can support us, but also non-tech things like journaling, and sometimes the tech kind of translates into non-tech as well, like that the technique of worry time you can do without an app as well. I noticed that I used to be a terrible sleeper, and so I'd wake up during the night and it'd be like worries on, but my friend actually taught me the worry time technique, and it really does work. You know, you say I'm going to worry at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and then 10 a.m. tomorrow comes and you maybe don't even worry in the end, you know. But there's some great examples of hybrid of how technology and techniques can, and non-tech can come together, you know, to bring you a bit of a toolkit of techniques coping. So thanks guys for sharing that. It's great. Now I'd like to deep dive into a space where we're sharing intimately, should you feel comfortable to do so. And can you perhaps tell us of a time when you felt affected by mental health and what you've done to feel supported or cope with it? Perhaps Kim, do you want to go first?
All right. Okay. So yeah, 3 years ago, this is very intimate, and I trust everyone.
Thank you
Anyway, so
for sharing. It's great.
yeah, so 3 years ago, I was actually experiencing or was going through on a breakup with a long-term relationship, and it was really a hard time for me. And during that time, I was finishing my graduate school as well, so that adds up to the stress and anxiety and things like that. And it came to a point wherein I just don't know what to do anymore. Like, I don't have energy. I don't even have an energy to get outside of my bed. I don't have energy to go to work. I don't have energy to socialize or talk to family members or to friends and stuff like that. And it came to a point that wherein I even thought of, okay, maybe if I'm gone, trigger warning, but yeah, maybe if I'm gone, maybe all of this, will be gone, right? But good thing, I have a good support system with my friends and with my office mates as well, and they've encouraged me to, they encouraged me to seek professional help. And during that time, I was actually not part of Uprise yet, but my company that time has Uprise as their EAP provider. So I really took that advantage to seek professional help. One thing is that, of course, professional help is not cheap, right? It's expensive. And in my country, in the Philippines, it's not for free. You really have to um, spend money for that. And yeah, I just took that time and take advantage of seeking a therapy, and it really changed my life. So that 3 session really changed how I view things, how I view whatever I'm feeling, and I feel heard and not judged. So yeah, and that's why I made a vow to myself that I'll be an advocate of mental health in any way that I can. Just like what Mitch says, I don't have to solve my friend's problem or my family member's problem, but I just have to be there to listen and, you know, give just a listening ear, because anyone who is experiencing mental health issues just needs someone to, you know, someone to talk to and be heard. So yeah.
Thanks, Kim. Appreciate you sharing that. It is really nice to actually, although that was a really challenging time for you, to actually hear stories and hear that you've overcome it, you know, and see you here today, and just understand the techniques and how you did overcome it. So that's, yeah, really appreciate it. Thank you. Michelle or Mitch, would either of you mind sharing a story?
I think I've shared, so I'm going to leave that to Michelle.
All right, great. We'll wait for Michelle's mute to unmute.
No, you're not getting the audio up the front, Teresa. It is coming through.
Oh, it is. Okay, cool. Okay, thanks.
Okay. I was thinking of two things. One thing that just came up when Mitch was talking earlier about normalizing mental health. Grief. So times in my life when I've been grieving over deaths, and I can remember when I was younger and there was a death in the family and I was crying a lot. And I can remember people told me they were very worried about me. And I remember saying, but why? Because you're crying all the time. I said, but I'm crying because I'm sad. I'm grieving. Like, you've got to allow me to. This is normal. So I just thought I'd mention that, because it's just normalizing perceptions that it is okay to feel a range of emotions, positive and negative. We're all human. We all have the whole range of emotions. That's normal. Just because there might be some negative emotions doesn't mean it has to be a problem. The other thing I was thinking is, I think for me, it's recognizing when I'm taking on too much. So there might be times when I'm feeling just overloaded, stressed, exhausted, depleted. And I've found that it's about recognizing limits, self-limits, when I've taken on too much, needing to have boundaries. Working out what's appropriate to take on, what's not, what's my responsibility, what's other people's responsibility, a bit like Mother Teresa, you were saying before.
I've had a rebrand since then, Michelle. It's all good.
And self-care. So ensuring that there's a good routine. Exercise really good for mental health, obviously physical health too, but really good for mental health. Making sure we get adequate sleep, healthy diet, all of that sort of stuff, but also cognitively in our thinking. So back to what we were talking about before, just recognizing, asking yourself, is my thinking helpful to me? You know, am I dwelling too much on things that either I can't control or things that are bringing me down, sad things, you know, is my thinking working for me? And if the answer's no, then it's, okay, how else can I think about this situation? What else can what's another way of going about this? So I think checking in with ourselves when we're not doing well and reassessing the situation. What can I do differently? Either in actions or with thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I find too, Michelle, and I don't know if this is a technique as such, but sometimes I'll write down what my problems are or what I feel that they are, and then next to them write the solutions. So it becomes quite actionable.
Right, yeah. And even getting things down on paper, it means you get it out of your head, you can express it. And sometimes it also creates some distance from the problems, because sometimes we're so overwhelmed with everything going on, it's hard to have that, to be able to see it clearly. But if you get it down on paper, and like with journaling as well that Kim is talking about, we can get it out of us and kind of remove it a bit and then get a clearer look. So yeah, it can really help.
I think something, oh, sorry, Kim, you were going to say something.
Yes, maybe I'd like to add in terms of some techniques that maybe we could practice. I learned about this retrain of thinking, wherein, let's say, for example, you're thinking a lot of negative things about yourself. You write it down, and on the side of the paper, you write down why this is not true or why is this true. And then at the end of that exercise or at the end of the practice, you conclude that, okay, all the negative things that I've been thinking is actually not true. So that, somehow transform your mind in thinking positively of yourself. So yeah, just that's one of the things that I've been practicing during this pandemic. So yeah.
Yeah, and I might add to that too, that I think, and it does touch on what everyone's sort of been talking about centrally, but one really big key thing is that, really sharing, and it doesn't have to be a story, but just even opening up about how you're feeling really does make an impact and does really help, because what you realize is that often people have very similar feelings or same issues, or someone's gone through something similar, and often we don't talk about it, or we're only getting better at talking about things now, and it's taken a lot of time for us to get there, and still we're not great at it, right? People don't really want to share the bad. If you sort of look at social media, it's all about the great things that are going on, and we're slowly starting to shift away from that, but I think one of the fundamental things to remember is really, share it. Try and talk to someone about it, your best mate, whatever, whoever's in your safe kind of network, I guess, or your safe circle.
Yeah, Teresa, just in sharing, we're social beings, and connection is so important, and so important to our mental health. So it can be very damaging to our mental health when we think we're alone in this and we're the only ones going through this. Very isolating. So yes, talking, sharing, connecting, really healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. And I can see there's a few questions coming through, which we will get to shortly. Just as we wrap up and draw this one to an end, I'd like to leave you all with something, and I'll ask the panelists if there's one very simple act of kindness that you personally would like to have been given to you in a day. What would that be? If you want someone to do something kind to you, what would that be?
Cook me dinner.
Awesome. And is that a home cooked meal or a
Yeah.
or Eats?
I don't care.
Just someone give Michelle dinner. Brilliant.
But no, on a serious note, I think it's very kind when people take the time people give you their time. So following up with you, if you've got something nice coming up, or something that you're nervous about, or something bad coming up, just for people to take the time to check in with you and see how you're doing, or see how something went. I think that's really kind.
Yeah, fantastic. So a gesture of some sort, time. Great.
Yeah, for me, similar to Michelle, like if a friend of mine who I haven't talked to in years or maybe in weeks send me a message on WhatsApp and ask me, hey Kim, how are you? How are you doing? Miss you. I just feel like, wow, somebody's thinking of me. Because just to share, like my personality can be like strong. With my group of friends, I am considered as like a strong friend, things like that. And nobody check on strong friends, right? So whenever my friends check on me and ask me how I am, I really like it. It gives me a positive feeling. And on another note, a good morning greeting every day is an act of kindness for me as well. So yeah.
And that's a great point that you make. Sometimes you think because your friends are strong or because you've got a strong personality that you don't need checking in on, but you appreciate a check-in, right? It's great.
It'd be super kind if someone could fix my webcam from flickering, because
it's driving me mad, Mitch.
Driving me bonkers. I need someone. Can someone virtually hack my PC and sort this out? I'm really sorry about that. I think that kindness is the absence of meanness more than it is the presence of awesomeness. So if all I got from someone was not judging me, I would be stoked. I don't even need them to be nice. Just don't judge me. So I think if all you can do to your fellow human, hit the webcam. If all you can do to your fellow human is try not to judge them. Come in with the assumption that they've got a story too. Innocent until proven guilty. I may not get it, but it's real for them. I'm going to own my own stuff as opposed to projecting onto others. I think that's the kindest thing you can do.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Mitch. Non-judgmental kindness.
Yeah.
And try hitting that webcam and see what happens.
Whoa, there we go.
Whoa, what's just happened there? We've got a whole new view.
Yeah.
That's really the end of all the formal sort of panel questions, but I would like to really open it up to the floor, and I've got a couple of questions coming through, so I will ask those. The very first question that we've got is, does a manager have a responsibility to tell their team if one team member is dealing with mental health issues? Also, if your colleague is struggling and it's affecting the team, are there any suggestions on how a person can navigate this without it overwhelming other team members or themselves? There's two parts to this question. Maybe we can...
because they're two big meaty ones. And I'll let Kim jump in as well. I'll just take the first one because I'm passionate about it.
Cool.
Do not do that. That is bullying and harassment. If you just talk to your team about someone's mental health without going and talking to them directly. Otherwise, it could just be seen as spreading rumors. That person would be like, I'm actually fine. Or why didn't you come and talk to me about it? Why did you talk to everyone else except me? So if you have a concern, go and approach that person directly. And if you don't feel like you have the skills, go find the skills because they're out there. Not knowing isn't an excuse to not do anything. The second thing is if you feel like it's out of your depth, then you can escalate confidentially to someone like HR to get them to go and check in on that person. That won't have any implications because it is seen in intent, and it's a very, very boundary type of escalation path.
Yeah, that's some really great tips, Mitch. Thanks. And does someone want to touch on sort of the second part? You know, if your colleague is struggling and it's affecting the team, suggestions on how you can navigate it further to what Mitch has given around sort of escalating that. But any suggestions on how perhaps you can support that team member?
Yes, I'll go with Mitch's suggestion. Firstly, if you are confident and if that colleague is a friend of yours, please don't hesitate to check that friend. You don't have to solve that problem. All you have to do is ask, how are you? Like, how are you? And be open to anything that your friend or your colleague might open. But if you are not close friend with that colleague and you are not comfortable, I also suggest maybe go to your manager or go to your HR and just do it like just a heads up, like, hey, I think this colleague of mine is struggling and he or she might need some extra help with that one. But other than that, it starts with having a safe space in your team, right? So if your leader, if your manager is giving the team a safe space to talk about these things, I think it will be easy for them to reach out. It will be easy for you to give a heads up whatever struggling team members that you have. So
some great tips. Shal?
Yeah, I was just going to say privacy is really important. So respecting someone's privacy, and if there is an issue, if it's creating an issue in a team, discuss with that person and maybe collaboratively work out ways that it could be addressed to help the team. Also, if you're not sure the best way to approach it is to ask the person what would be helpful, rather than make assumptions or not do anything because you don't know.
Great tip. Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so another question is, how do you support someone virtually? What's your professional advice to be there for a person without being there physically?
Honestly, I think we're giving too much credence to virtual getting in the way of showing up for others. I've actually been handling, I think, 3 or 4 different personal cases of suicidal intention this week. And yes, I mean, I live and breathe this stuff, but I was able to cut through with them, and I wasn't even on a video call. I was on a phone purely through my tone. People feel when you care. Humans aren't these robots who just ingest a script of words. We feel where someone's coming from. And so I think that, yes, it is harder because we don't have that in-person antennas being able to really read them. But it is absolutely not a showstopper. We can still, I check in on my friends by, if I can't observe their physical behavior, I send them a text out of 1 to 10, how have you been feeling in the last 2 weeks? And whatever that number is, I can use that as the gateway or the bouncing point into a conversation. And then I'll use my tone of voice to show them that I'm feeling with them, not for them.
Yeah, great point. Anyone else want to answer that, Michelle?
I think it's been an interesting time because with the pandemic, my counselling has always been face-to-face, but now it mostly still is, I have to admit, but I'm doing a lot of telehealth as well, which is either over Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, sometimes the phone. It's not the same, but it's a really, really good alternative. And funnily enough, in Melbourne, I'm trying to work out which is worse, either doing telehealth or counselling in a mask. So it is a really good alternative. And in our personal lives, again, we're so blessed to be living in an age where we have video conferencing. You know, we can actually see people. We can so easily pick up the phone and ring people, texting, you know. So all of these are ways to check in and to keep up communications.
Yeah, great. Michelle, I've got another one actually for you here, where someone's asked, how do you look after your own mental health while you're helping to look after others?
Really good question. A bit like I said before, it's imperative that I have to recognise my own limits. And I do that in ways by organising my day so that I know what time I need to kind of start and finish with clients before the exhaustion hits in, or the they call it compassion fatigue, where we can feel exhausted by hearing everyone else's stories. And also for me personally, exercise. Years ago, I was just so busy with work and had young children, and life was hectic, and I didn't have enough time for me. And it wasn't great. Whereas these days I make sure I have enough of me time. And that includes exercise, that includes things that I enjoy doing, keeping up with friends, you know, reading a book, going for walks, doing things for me. It's my time out. And it creates a balance. So balance. It's all about a healthy balance.
Yeah, I once had a therapist that, well, taught me that if you don't fit your own, if the plane's going down, you don't fit your own oxygen mask first, then you can't fit anyone else's.
Yeah. And I might just...
Yeah, sorry. No, you go. That's okay. Go for it.
Okay. A quick metaphor that I often tell a lot of my clients is just imagine that you're a jug of water and you've got lots of glasses to fill. So the glasses are your responsibilities. You're filling all the glasses and eventually your jug is empty. So you've got nothing left to give anyone else until you spend time replenishing your jug. So we all need to think about what replenishes our jug. And we need to commit to replenishing our jug, because then everyone benefits. Often we feel selfish if we focus on self-care. But if we look at it that way, if we focus on looking after ourselves, everyone benefits around us because we've got more to give. So really important.
Great. And thank you. And now we'll address one final question before we actually wrap this up and move into a meditation. And I'll just note for everyone that we've touched on like apps and tools and resources, and they will all be sent out later after this session via an EDM. So you'll get comms on all of the list, or the short list of everyone's bookmarks and resources. Can we just ask though the panel to share some mental health websites before sort of we wrap up this event, any kind of mental health websites that are of use and can be, you know, known to the audience, that'd be great.
I'm going to shamelessly plug here. So there's an amazing podcast called Understood by a guy called Mitch Wallis, who does weekly mental health episodes. Highly recommend. I mean, the guy, but the content. So, and I post daily mental health content on my Instagram channel at mitch.wallis, Wallis with an IS. Heart on my sleeve. You can sign up for Real Mates when it launches, and a bunch of other stuff there. Outside of that, I really, really, really recommend Dr. Dan Siegel. His work, if you're a parent and like, you have to read Dr. Dan Siegel's books, like Parenting from the Inside Out. But I also just think that understanding our own attachment style, how we relate to others, is such a fundamental part of self-regulation, and learning how to almost reparent continue to parent yourself, I should say, is just a really, really, really healthy thing to do. So Dr. Dan Siegel and Tim Ferriss, I'm a massive fan of. I think Tim's application, not just to productivity, but using his hacks on the mind, very, very cool. And Eckhart Tolle is really good for understanding presence, the power of now, and he's got some online resources as well.
My partner's reading that right now.
Great book.
And just really to thanks Mitch for those suggestions and the shameless plug. That was great. But you know, just in case, I mean, obviously we're in a safe space, and just to address it, if anyone's felt, you know, triggered by this conversation or wants some immediate websites to go to, Vanessa will actually post some in the chat tonight before the event finishes. But there's things like Lifeline and Better Health Vic and reachout.com. But Vanessa will pop these into the chat too, so you guys have those. I think we're going to wrap up now so we can do a beautiful meditation. I'd love to say a massive thanks to all of the panelists, and thanks for sharing all of your wisdom, your techniques, your amazing tips. You've given us a lot to work with, and so we really appreciate it. And thanks to the audience for obviously tuning in and being really engaged with the Q&A. So thank you, Kim. Thanks, Mitch, and thanks, Michelle. Really appreciate it. And given the topic that we've all spoken about tonight, we thought that it'd be really fitting for us to move and sort of start to conclude this event with a mindfulness exercise. We've been really fortunate to obviously have Mitch, and he's offered to lead us through a short group meditation tonight. The meditation will run for approximately 10 minutes, and you can do it in your space right now, just as you are. You don't need anything but yourself and just a willingness to join. So I'd like to hand over to Mitch, and he will guide us through a meditation that will go for about 10 minutes. Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Teresa, and thank you so much for hosting and moderating this panel, and creating such a safe space for us to be real and to talk about this stuff as well. And thank you to Girls in IT. I've been fortunate to be mentored by some amazing meditation minds, and I think my favorite meditation of all is a body-based safe space meditation. So I'm going to lead us through that, and I've turned the lights off so I can really tap into that feeling. So let's start by, if you've got your computer, can you please just leave it somewhere that you're not going to be distracted by it, either resting on your lap or on a table in front of you. Sitting up in wherever you are, on your couch, on your seat, and just gently closing your eyes and not trying to breathe in a certain way, just starting to become aware of the natural cadence of your breath. Notice that the noise of the mind starts to become more magnified when we start to slow down, and that's okay. We don't need to change anything. Just use my voice as an anchor point. If you can, try focus on getting the breath a little bit deeper into your belly, like it expands almost like a balloon. Not so much that you're feeling pressure or force, just allowing it to take its natural path in through the nose, slight rise of the belly and a slow exhale, allowing it to soothe. Starting at the top of your head, just bring some awareness to your forehead and notice if there's any clenching or tightening, and just release a little bit, if you can, of the frowning between your eyebrows. Loosen the grip of your eyelids. Allow them just to shut gently. If your tongue is on the roof of your mouth, allow it to drop. If there's constriction around your throat, just send breath there. In breath to the throat and slowly letting it release on the out breath. Allow your shoulders to melt downwards like butter. Feeling your limbs of your arms just resting on your body. Noticing their weight, not judging it, just observing, building a somatic idea of how you really feel right now. Sending an in-breath to your heart area. There might be tension or discomfort or stories swimming around there. Sending a loving inward breath toward your heart space. Slowly breathing it out. Allow any knots of your stomach just to feel like they're slowly uncoiling. Just loosening your grip on that tensity. Allow your pelvis to drop down and relax. And notice your legs. If you can, identify the contact point of the bottom of your feet on the floor, or just becoming aware of any of the material texture that you're sitting on and how it's making contact with your skin or your body. Just take 2 breaths where you really feel like you can just, for now, just in this moment, allow yourself to let go a little bit on the out breath. We can come back to all those worries in a second. We're just going to park them for now and just give ourselves a moment of peace. Noticing where there might be physical tension or the emotional tension. Not buying into those stories, just noticing and coming back to the breath. Not needing to label it as good or bad. It just is. And also allow there to be a backdrop of the positive experience that might be present with you right now. Maybe there's a mild sense of relaxation and calm. Allowing that to be the scaffolding for any other emotions that may be present. And now I want you to picture in your head a place, somewhere in the world, a 1 by 1 meter squared patch of existence where you feel most safe. It could be a particular corner of a park. It could be the kitchen in a holiday home. It could be a certain area on a beach. It could be one side of your bed. When you have that space in your mind, I want you to picture like you're really there. What texture is beneath your toes? Is it sand or grass or socks or linen? What's the temperature like? Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it humid? What can you smell? Can you smell the salt water? Can you smell that unique identifier of snow? Can you smell a burning fire, a dinner? What can you see? What's closest to you? Are there objects or people around you? What can you hear? Are there birds, creaking floorboards, silence? And importantly, what do you feel? What's it like being in this place that's just for you, the place you feel most safe? Is it warmth? Is it security? Is it this belief that it's all going to be okay? What does that feel like? Allow that to fill your bloodstream. Really feel what it's like to be in this space that's just for you, that no one can take from you, where everything is okay. And just breathe. Allow it to fill your heart. Not clinging to it, not desperately yearning for it. Just letting it rest in your body like a feather would touch a brick. Take 3 last breaths, just soaking in this experience of this safe place. With your eyes shut, just give a gentle smile to your surroundings. Feel the gratitude for its showing up for you. And gently, when you're ready, focusing back to a point in your own body in this present moment, whether it's your forehead, your chest, or your stomach, and just taking a few breaths to return into this space and recenter ourselves, bringing with us the calm that we just created. and integrating this experience together. And when you're ready, returning to the room and opening your eyes. So I hope that reminded you of a place that you have in your mind that's always there for you and no one can take it. And I'd just like to ask in the chat window, did you get to a safe space? And if you did, can you write yes? And if you feel comfortable sharing where it was, if it was on a beach or in a house, you don't need to divulge too many details because it's yours, but it'd just be interesting to see if you were able to get to that space. Beautiful. Look at us time traveling around the world in our heads, finding peace and comfort. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks so much, Mitch. That was really beautiful and really important to also share that you can find a safe space that no one can take away from you. So thanks. That was really amazing. And again, another great technique for us to all take away with us. So thanks again to our panelists for doing such a fantastic job, and thanks so much to everyone for coming and being really engaged. I've got a couple more PSAs before we head into the speed dating. Speed dating networking. I keep saying speed dating and that's not good because we're not speed dating, we're networking. But I've got a couple of PSAs before we head there. So we do have Hack for Humanity, a Hack for Health event, which is coming up in October. That's on the 24th and the 25th of October. We've got the pre-hack happening on the 16th of October. So please do look out for the Eventbrite page to register. That will be up this week and we'll be in touch on it. We'd love to get you guys involved and participating in what will be an awesome hack. Mitch himself you can testify to it because you did the hack last year. That's where we met you. Well, that's where I met you. So awesome. You can also stay up to date on all of our socials, including the Facebook group and the Girls in Tech Australia members. We've got a community of awesome members, and so you can stay up to date with all the events that we're running and also stay in touch with one another through that. And before we head off, I just want to give you a bit of a rundown of how speed dating will work tonight. So in approximately, what's the time? 7:30. Great. We've got a couple of minutes, in about 2 or 3 minutes. So it's 7:35. We'll be, this Zoom will be cut off, and basically you will be split into 2 15-minute sessions. So you'll be split into groups of 4, so 3 others and yourself. And then after 15 minutes, you'll be reassigned into a new group for your final speed dating networking session. So once this call finishes at 7:35, you'll return to the homepage, and from there, you'll simply click on the button to join the speed dating networking session. Hope that makes sense. So just hang in there for another couple of minutes and you'll automatically be taken back to the platform. You'll need to click the button to join the speed dating networking at 7:35. Thanks all again so much for coming, and I really hope that you've gotten some great takeaways from this Girl Boss Night and that you feel equipped with tools, techniques to better manage this pandemic and overall your mental health. There's some links which the guys, the team have actually put into the chat just with any kind of, if you'd like to follow up on, Better Health or Lifeline or Suicide Callback, there's some links in there in the chat. So look out for those. And thanks so much to our panelists. Are there any final words that you want to say before we depart? We've got a minute.
Well, for me, check on your strong friends.
Love that. Thanks. Anyone else want to share a key final takeaway?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Great event. And just everyone look after yourselves. Refill your jug. Just look after yourselves.
Yeah, big thank you. And I'd just say, like, you are enough. Remember that, and don't let anyone take it away from you, and don't let you take it away from you either.
That's great. What an awesome note to finish on. Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Taken away very shortly, and we might just stay behind and have some small talk while that happens.